I like to say at this point, everyone is an entrepreneur, even if you have a job. If you have this idea and it's keeping you up at night and you can't let it go, that is a sign that this is something that you need to pursue. One thing about entrepreneurship that people don't talk about a lot is that it can be lonely and isolating. Almost 50% of the time, the role that they reach out to me to hire for is not the role we actually end up hiring for. The certifications and education fields on most people's LinkedIn profile is one of the most underused. But you need to put those out there because that's what we're searching. If you're in a job now, shift your focus from.
Welcome to the Future Minds podcast.
Welcome to Future Minds podcast. I have a very interesting guest on the podcast today. We're called Amanda, who's done very well in her career, and she's currently got a company called SimpleRPO, which she's actually built from scratch. So, Amanda, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Luca. Excited to be here with you today.
Appreciate your time as well. It'll be interesting for the audience first of all to kind of understand your background, right? So where you've started in your career and how you've got to where you are today as well, and going from, of course, working for someone to actually building out your own company, right? So that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Okay. Well, I would say I got my first professional start at Citi, being a training and development manager there, and learned a lot there, learned a lot about business and just the importance of onboarding new talent and, learning what they need to be able to contribute. So that development piece was very important for me. But then from there, I wanted to get more into employee relations. I was very interested in that. So that's when I decided to go back and earn my master's in HR management. And I moved into some HR roles, worked my way up from there, had the opportunity to work on some very interesting projects and through some very interesting and challenging times. I would like to say I got into HR. Um, and it was more like a trial by fire because it was like 2008, so a lot of things are going on. We were in a recession and it was just a whole bunch of things going on. But I learned a lot in that time period. And then from there, I decided I had some changes in my family life, and I decided to join my family's business. They had a facility maintenance company, and I went in and I headed that HR function for about 15 years or so. And in that time period, I would help a lot of friends, family, other business owners that I knew. They would come to me, they would have different questions about hiring or HR, or they were, just kind of winging it and had all kind of issues going on. They would come to me for help. And so, I would assist them and help them, create development plans, hiring plans, whatever to kind of help their businesses grow. And during the pandemic, um, that was a difficult time because you had a lot of smaller businesses. They were struggling to find talent, people to come in and work. And then you also had, the same thing going on with larger companies. They needed people to work. And so they didn't have the visibility to be able to attract or compete with talent. And so I said, well, what can I do in this situation to be helpful? So I took a foray into launching a job board that was just local to my area where small businesses could promote their jobs. And I, help connect them with, with employees during that time. And that was great. But in working with them more, I realized they needed more than just a job posting. That they didn't really have a process of identifying what exact talent they needed for their business for the long run. They didn't understand how not having that kind of talent acquisition plan was adding to their stress load, adding to the number of hours they needed to that they were working. They were hiring people, but they weren't putting in the right roles and they weren't bringing in the right skill sets. So after working with a handful of them and really kind of taking over their talent acquisition for them in a more of a RPO model. I
Mm,
had quite a few of them were like, wow, this is really helpful. You should turn this into a business and offer it
yeah.
as, a actual service. And
Mm.
I thought, you're
Why not?
absolutely right. I
Yeah.
should. I'm already doing it. And so then that's when I decided to stop the job posting business and launch Simple RPO. And my goal behind that was to make talent acquisition simple to small
Yeah.
and mid-sized businesses who maybe don't have or really don't need a full-time HR talent acquisition function, but they still need that expertise. And so to make it approachable for them, to make it something that's simple and that's not going to absorb their time and give them more capacity and actually help them bring on the talent that they need to
Mm.
build a foundation for their business and whatever their growth plans are for the future. And I found that work to be very rewarding and very interesting and really just helping them connect the dots to how talent acquisition really connects
Yeah.
to their revenue generation and then meeting those revenue and growth goals in a way that they hadn't really thought about before and moving talent acquisition from a afterthought or something that's reactive to something that's very intentional and something that they plan right alongside with their business goals. And so that's the work that I'm doing now and probably for the foreseeable future.
Wow, that is a career and a half. And it seems like you've just covered such a range of different areas in your career as well. It's not just you just done HR, you've done recruiting, on the strategic side as well, then gone to building out your own business. So that's a lot that you've been involved with. And in that time as well, of course, that wouldn't have come easy. I know you've worked hard to get where you are today as well. But what would you say, the biggest challenges were as, you got down your career?
Oh, some challenges. Well,
Where do you
um,
start? Yeah.
yeah, like where do I start? I would say one, just for me from a personal level, is getting out there and really kind of packaging your expertise in who you want to help. Because when you have something like talent acquisition or HR, I think a lot of people feel, and even when they're hiring for a HR role, they think HR is HR, talent acquisition is talent acquisition.
Mm,
And really identifying who I wanted to help, who I wanted to serve, what problems I wanted to solve, and how I wanted to show up was the number one challenge. I would say the second challenge would be helping the people that I work with get through some of their own beliefs and thoughts about their need for HR and talent acquisition. So they may think we're too small for that. Or if I'm working with a founder, they'll say, oh, I left that, I don't
mm,
want to revisit that, and just getting them to understand that you can shape the organizational culture that you want, but you still need some kind of guardrails and a plan and a strategy in
mm,
place.
mm.
Um, I would just say other challenges would just be fluctuations in the market.
Yeah.
um, when things are good, when the economy is going well, people are more willing to invest and be open
Yeah.
to more strategy. When the economy isn't doing so well, getting them
Mm,
to see that value and that this is still
mm,
something that you need to invest in, and
mm,
just putting hard numbers behind how this benefits you or how this is actually costing you money that you don't see by not having this level of intentionality and strategy. So those have been some of the challenges and struggles that I've
some of them.
experienced and have navigated
Mm,
through.
yeah. Interesting. And I'm assuming also the fact going from, working for someone to going to start your own business, that must have been a massive challenge. So what was the transition like and how did you adapt to, having your own business at that point as well?
Oh, well, from going from working to someone else, right? You have these expectations. You have a boss that is kind of telling you these are the things that you have to do every
Yeah.
day. I think one of the biggest challenges was being out of that, and now you have to decide that for yourself. And
Mm,
so that's a big freedom, but then now you're also responsible for making sure that you're hitting
everything.
revenue goals. You're responsible for doing things that are maybe outside of your skill set, like running a sales call
Mm,
or prospecting and things like that. So,
mm,
um, some of the things that I did to help that transition was I myself hired a business coach, so that I could
well,
build up those skills that I had a gap in and that I
mm,
didn't necessarily have expertise in.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then finding community. I joined a few mastermind groups to find people who were doing the same thing, who were having the same experiences and maybe challenges. Because one thing about entrepreneurship that people don't talk about a lot is that it can be lonely and isolating.
Yeah.
Um, your friend group, isn't necessarily experiencing those things. um, they don't feel the nerves that you have when you have to pitch a new client something, or when you're really creating something from scratch and you have no idea how it's going to be accepted by people, and or if it's going to be successful, and you've invested a lot. Because to be honest, most startups and business owners, they're not coming in the beginning with any kind of financing. You're putting your savings, you're putting that on the line. And so having a group of people who understand that and who can support you, and who you can bounce ideas off of, because in our office you have coworkers, right? You can say, hey,
Yeah.
how does this sound? Does this make sense? But when you're working by yourself and for yourself, you don't have that kind of built in. So that was important to me, to build in that community. So I wasn't just constantly in my head, that I could get that feedback and support from other
Mm.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, it's a complete different world when you go down the route of having your own business. Because yeah, like you say, you haven't got the support around you, and if you need help, it's just yourself. You've got to ask yourself a question.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
a lot of trial and error along the way as well. 100%.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And of course, in terms of, I mean, anyone today, say anyone listening to this as well, be interesting to know from your side, would you have any advice for anyone wanting to start for business or anything that would, give them insight on that?
I would say that if you have a strong feeling and desire to start a business, if you have this idea and it's keeping you up at night and you can't let it go, that is a sign that this is something that you need to pursue, and to trust yourself with that, and I think that's one of the most important things, is that if you have to first believe in your idea and your concept before other people will. So just develop that belief, work on your offer or your business until you feel as if you would be doing a disservice to the world by not sharing it. I
Mm,
like to say you have to have that level of belief and conviction about what you're doing. And it
mm,
has to be a belief and conviction beyond money, or at least for me, it has to be beyond money. It has to feel that I am actually serving someone or helping make their lives better in some kind of way. And I would also encourage you to invest in yourself. Um, you're going to know what you know. You know your specialty, you know your domain, right? Um, but you quickly learn that that's not enough,
yeah.
and that's okay. You don't have to, just because you're a founder or you're leading a business, it doesn't make you an expert in all business. So just also, um, gain a comfort level in dealing with the things that you don't know, and bringing in help, because you'll realize that you'll spend so much time Googling and AIing and asking Gemini or Claude or whoever you're using all these questions, and you're going to spend so much time figuring out the things you don't know,
Mm,
instead of really investing in doing the things that you do best. And that's
mm,
always the best use of your time. So ask for help, bring in a consultant, bring in a business coach, get in community with other business owners, and ask those questions. So you're just not spinning your wheels and getting frustrated about things that have nothing to do with what you want to execute. That's one thing that I had to learn quickly and that I encourage everybody else to do, as well. And that there's no shame in doing that. So,
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think investing in yourself when you've got your business is one of the biggest things. 100%. I can tell you invested in yourself as well with all the books behind you.
yeah.
It really worked in a favour. And it'll be interesting, like Amanda, like your business model as well. So I know your business basically finds RPOs for companies. For anyone listening, RPO, if for anyone that doesn't have, a full understanding of recruitment, do you mind going
Mhm.
into more detail and explain your business model and how it works?
Of course. So RPO stands for Recruiting Process Outsourcing. And so, how that differs from other forms of recruitment like contingency or retainer is that I come in, or my business will come in, and we will act as like your internal recruitment department. So I like to say it's like having a recruiter around the corner in your office, except we're not, we work on behalf of your company. And so we'll represent your company and we'll do everything an internal recruiter would do. We will help you identify the competencies that you need to have in this role. We'll write the job description. We'll do the recruiting. And more importantly, we're going to go out and we're going to proactively source talent for this role once we've identified it. We talk to the candidates and we vet them to make sure that they're in alignment with what we've identified that you've needed. And then we only present you with candidates who are what you need. Because a lot of times if you're just posting a job, you're going to get flooded with resumes and you don't have time to go through all of those and really screen and vet them. So that way, whoever business I'm working with, they only have to look at people who actually align with what they're looking for.
Mm,
And then we just manage the process from beginning to end. So once we've interviewed, we offer and we help on board. And so that does all of the functions that you would have in a internal, HR recruiting department. But it allows founders to be able to do that, at scale that's affordable for them without bringing in, an employee that they may only need for, 6 months while they're aggressively hiring. So that is how
yeah,
that usually differs from your kind of traditional
usual.
recruitment.
Yeah, yeah. You basically act as their partner, don't you? You deal with pretty much every
Mhm.
single part of the recruitment process end to end.
Yeah, we do.
You know.
So we do. We step in and we partner with them and make ourselves available to them. And so that is not what I really didn't want to do when I decided to do recruitment as a business was I didn't just want to throw resumes at people. I didn't
Yeah,
just want to chase job postings or requisitions. I didn't want to do that. That may work for some people in some industries. It didn't align with how I wanted to show up in the recruitment space. I wanted to really show up as a partner and help the business understand what they were bringing onto their business and see it as a larger picture, because almost 50% of the time the role that they reach out to me to hire for is not the role we actually end up
yeah,
hiring for.
yeah. And it's
um
end up being a
yeah.
lot of back and forth at that point as well. Start off with one thing, next thing
Mhm.
you know is the two new jobs and a completely different job spec as well.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
And on the candidate side, I think a big thing, in the market as well is on the candidate, shortages from, I mean, both a client point of view and also a competitive market where people find it hard to find a job. What are you seeing from your side as well, from, I mean, both candidate and client point of view for candidates?
Well, from a candidate side, I'm hearing they find it impossible to find a job. They're really frustrated with the recruitment process. And in some aspects, I understand that frustration. From an employer standpoint, they're seeing it as a labor shortage. They can't find the skills that they need. They can't find the people that they need. Um, and there's some truth to that in some industries. Some industries are legitimately having a talent shortage. Um, but there are also ways to work through that. Um, but from, I believe you said from a candidate side, um, I work with a select group of candidates. I keep a database of candidates, and one of the things that I do with them is I always do a call with them and really try to help them hone in on what it is that they're looking for. If anybody is looking for a job, especially in this market, the pray and spray method is not going to work. You have to be very,
Good
very
luck.
specific. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, because when their employers are getting inundated with resumes, right? And so after a while, when you're looking at them, especially if you're not a pro at this, they all start to look the same.
Mm,
So your job as a candidate now is going to be to, as closely as possible, align yourself with what this company is looking for and stand out. And that takes time. So you're not going to be able to do that applying for 100 jobs a day. So you need to be very specific about what kind of role you're looking for, very specific about what your skill set is and what you can contribute and the type of company that you want to work for. A lot of candidates now want to be aligned with the company's mission and their vision and their purpose. And so, you need to know exactly what kind of role you're looking for. And when you find it, put in the time to actually present yourself as the best candidate for that. And I help my candidates to do that with the ones that I work with, to narrow down your scope, get very specific on what you do and what you can contribute, and really think about the things that you've accomplished in your career. To focus your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn, all of those assets on hard hitting facts of things that you've contributed that would be appealing to an employer. So, not just
mm,
duties, but what did you achieve? And I would
mm,
even give that advice to people if you're in a job now, shift
mm,
your focus from I'm just going to do whatever my duties are to what kind of projects can you take on, to boost your
mm,
resume? What kind of results can you deliver? What kind of results are you delivering with actual numbers in the things that you're doing now? And
mm,
kind of keep those things in like some kind of sheet or document or whatever, so that if you are unfortunately displaced, you'll be ready because you'll already have had built, you know, some things that are going to make you more competitive in the job market. You want to show that you deliver results. Um, I like to say at this point, everyone is an entrepreneur, even if you have a job right now. Um, you have to be thinking as an owner and what you would want to see in a person, and how are you building and developing that in yourself. I hear a lot from candidates that my company isn't developing me. And I always shift that back to them, is you are always responsible for your own development. You're not
mm,
going to be able to wait for your company to provide you with these educational opportunities. If you see a shift in the market um, to companies being very interested in AI tools, you need to learn AI tools. You need to be learning these things no matter what your role is, because it's coming to every single functional area in every business. So, how is that being applied in your business, in your functional area? And you need to take responsibility for going and pursuing those opportunities on your own. So, yes, it is benefiting your employer, and they may not be compensating you for that or paying for that training, but you're protecting yourself and make sure that you're consistently upskilling yourself and that you're not getting stale in the market because maybe you've been in your role for a long time.
mm.
Um, So that's just my advice to
Yeah.
candidates. I don't
Yeah, I
even
was
know if
gonna
that's where
say,
we were going,
no,
but
that's really good advice. I think everything you said, I completely agree with as well, especially in the fact of, they got to, again, it's investing in yourself because that, I mean, end of the day, that's going to help you in your career anyway. You invest in yourself, naturally,
Mhm,
money will come. That's what people don't understand.
mhm,
They just look at it short term and they expect it to be handed on a plate all the time with these employers.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. And reach out to a recruiter and say, what are you looking for in these
Mm.
kind of roles? Most of the time, recruiters will talk to you because we're always looking for talent, right? I may not
Yeah,
be able to help you in a role now, but you best believe I'm going to keep you in my database in case I get a client who's looking for what you offer.
yeah,
And start building those skills and start putting that learn how to use LinkedIn and put those things on your LinkedIn profile because when I'm going through in LinkedIn Recruiter, I'm looking for specific things. And so if you don't have those things, you're invisible. You become invisible. Like you're not even going to show up on my search. So really find out what skills are in demand in your industry and just overall and start developing those and putting them on your profile once you get them. I think that the certifications and education fields on most people's LinkedIn profile is one of the most underused ever
yeah.
because you need to put those out there because that's what we're searching for.
Mm,
And I see people get better results when they do that and just
mm.
stop being afraid to market yourself and put yourself out there and invest in yourself.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I know you said about AI as well. People, yeah, in the competitive market, it's probably good advice to invest in AI or, get an understanding of the area because that's the way the market's going. How is it you use AI from your side, and how can you see it impacting the market in HR and recruitment?
Well, let's see. Some ways that I use AI, I know a lot of people think that AI is reviewing and rejecting candidates, and at least from my
Yeah,
perspective, that's not true.
yeah,
Um, I use AI more so when I'm building out competency models for a role. Um, and I can see I use it for that. And I use it for candidate alignment, for shaping maybe interview questions, things like that. Um, but for selection, no. I use AI to search through my database of candidates that I've built to see which candidates have that are already in my database that have these skills, interests, whatever. It saves me so much time from having to do that manually. Um, so those are some ways that I'm personally implementing AI, in my business. From an HR standpoint, I use it in a lot of other places, areas of my business, like, financials, things like that, categorizing expenses
yeah,
automatically. I'm using AI to do all of the things that take me away from doing the things that I feel that I do best and that I like. And I think that that's one of the best uses of AI, is to free you to do more creative and more strategic work.
yeah. No, I completely agree. And that's the thing with AI, it's gonna help save you time to do the more important things as well.
Mhm.
Recruitment and HR is that people element, which you're never gonna be able to get rid of.
Mhm.
So that's why I think, going down the line, you're still gonna have jobs in this area. How is it you think it's gonna impact the job market?
Well, I do think that AI skills are going to be one of the number one skills that people need to build. I think that a lot of people are afraid of AI because they think that it's going to take your job. And I like to say that AI isn't going to take your job, but someone who
Mm,
is comfortable with AI is going to take your job.
mm,
Um, I would think that I'm seeing a lot of employers use it, especially in more analytical spaces. Um, I think a lot of your entry level analyst roles, they may not be eliminated, but they're going to have to come in knowing how to prompt AI, how to get certain results with AI. Um, so I think that those are changes that are going to be made. So I encourage everyone to do some type of training and instead of being afraid of it, embrace it. Play with it on your own. Learn how to do proper prompting but also to not let AI become like think for you. I
Yeah.
think that people can kind of get into a thing where they'll just tell, whatever AI they're using to do something for them. um, you still have to learn how to do it. Like I told my nephew, you still have to learn how to write the essay, right?
Yeah.
But you can use AI to help you streamline your research. You can let it help you. Let AI help you be better at what you're doing and not a replacement for what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, yeah.
I agree. And that's the thing that will help people stand out. And besides, of course, AI, is there anything else you think, again, in the competitive market, you think will help people stand out compared to other candidates they're up against?
I would say the candidates that are finding the most success now are the ones who are not afraid to think outside of the box and do things that most people won't do. For example, if you're applying for a job, you can go on LinkedIn and you can find who the hiring manager is or who likely the hiring manager is, and send them an email and introduce yourself. Sometimes you have to kind of go around the system a little bit to get in contact with the decision maker. Um, Another, like I mentioned before, is counterintuitive, but to really narrow down your search and your focus, um, to look for areas that you have an actual interest in, and even if it's maybe not something you've done in the past, if it's a new passion or something you want to explore, look at how those skills transfer and then connect the dots for the employer to see how that may benefit them to get a fresh perspective on something. I can't tell you how many times
Yeah.
I've hired someone from cross industries, um, just because they brought a different perspective. So to not undervalue a different perspective. And for some of my more seasoned and experienced job seekers, I would say to not be afraid to level up or level down. It is perfectly okay to level down in a role. It's perfectly okay to pursue a part-time role if that's what's available to you, because you never know what's going to happen. And if you think it's with an organization or in a role that is going to enrich you or help you or be a stepping stone in some way, go ahead and take that opportunity. So my best advice is to really be open to opportunity, and to be, really strategic and thoughtful um, about about your strategy and your activities for hiring. And I'll put a plug out there for all of our recruiters. Do not be afraid to reach out to a recruiter. They may not be able to get you an immediate placement, but I guarantee you, if they have a call with you, you will walk away with a lot more knowledge and insight than what you started with. And you just never know what kind of opportunities that those will bring, because you don't know what kind of clients they're working with. So always leave those doors open as well.
Yeah. You couldn't have said that any better. I couldn't have said that any better. And I think, I mean, everything you said is so helpful for anyone, first of all, that wants to get in the job market, for anyone, coming out of uni or someone that's unemployed at the moment. But second of all, really good advice for anyone that's been working, but they want to take the next step, and just be flexible, because, we're in a competitive market, right? It's not where it was a couple of years
Mhm.
ago, where there's a lot more jobs out there. So I think that's very helpful for anyone listening today, Amanda. So look, I think really a pleasure having you on the podcast today. I think anyone listening, it's a lot of insightful information, and hopefully we'll have you on the podcast again.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it, and I'd be happy to come back anytime.
No, always a pleasure. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.